Hi, everyone. Welcome to season 2, episode 3 of Morning Matcha. I'm here today with naturopathic doctor and acupuncturist, Dr. Patti Kim. Hi.
Hi.
Yeah, I'm super excited to be drinking matcha with you
I
and finally
know. Love
having
it.
met you in person. This is really fun.
It is fun.
So tell me how you got into natural medicine.
So I was always on the track towards becoming a doctor. I knew that I wanted to be a doctor since the 4th grade. Mr. Killian got
Oh
me
my
into
gosh.
science. I was his teacher's pet, loved him. And I just knew that that's what I wanted to do. And in college, I was actually an art major and pre-med. So I come from a family of artists. Both my parents are artists. My
Wow.
mom's a ceramic artist, and my dad did architecture. Um, so
Super
up until
creative, but
yeah,
also,
yeah,
yeah,
yeah.
really, yeah.
And so I was on the track, and like a good little student, I was talking to a lot of doctors while I was preparing, and you know, not a single medical doctor encouraged me. Everyone kept asking me, is this what you really want to do? Make
Yeah.
sure that this is what you want to do. And for whatever reason, karma, past lives, just innate desire, I've always known that I needed to be in a field that was of service and doing something in that
hmm
realm. And, I really thought it was going to be medicine. And just the more that I researched the career and the closer I got, and I was getting ready to take my MCATs and I'd paid all this money to prepare, and it just did not feel right. And, it's different now. I'm a lot older than you. Like kids and millennials and women in their 30s now are so much more in touch with their intuition.
Yeah.
That language
hmm
is more awakened. And I
And it's kind of
wasn't.
more allowed in a way in our
Yeah,
society.
it's like we
Yeah.
have permission to really
Yeah.
listen to that part of
hmm
ourselves. And it wasn't like that when I was, 19, 20, 21. But there was just something in me that was like, this is not the way that you're going to be happy. And because I was an art student, a friend of mine, actually one day, she was just out of the blue said, have you ever considered alternative medicine? And it had really, I mean, being an Asian American,
hmm
I had experienced a little bit of acupuncture, but I just always thought like, so those crazy herbs my mom cooks in the crock pot, like those bitter things she makes me drink. And I did sprain my ankle at Disneyland one time, and she took me in, I got acupuncture and I was able to like walk out of the doctor's office, but it
Wow.
wasn't anything that I'd ever considered.
Yeah.
But when she said that, something really kind of hit home. And then I just started researching and looking into it. And I was like, what? Getting to the cause of why we're sick? Like, this is
hmm
why I wanted to become a doctor. Like, I didn't even know this thing existed. So that just kind of got me going. And then
And that was while you were in med school,
I
or?
was in undergrad
hmm
about to, I just finished MCATs, was about to start
Wow.
applying and all of that.
So it was
And
perfect timing.
yeah, it was perfect timing.
Wow. That's so awesome. And where did you go?
I went to naturopathic medical school in Oregon, in Portland,
hmm
National University of Natural Medicine, and also got my master's in Oriental medicine. I wasn't planning on it. I really was just going to pursue naturopathic medicine, and they have a dual degree program where you could do that as well.
mm
And I think being Asian American and being first generation, there is a little part of me that's like rebellious about that. Like,
Yeah.
don't put me in this like Asian medicine category.
Yeah.
So I was a little bit resistant, but it's so profound and deep. And probably if you want to really, analyze it, I'm sure cellular memory wise, like it goes back into
Totally.
past generations and things. So I couldn't help but be pulled into it. And it complements naturopathic medicine so well. So, and I
hmm
love being able to do acupuncture. And
Do you
so
formulate herbs and things?
I do not as much anymore, but I do when it's called for. So it's very individual. If a patient
Yeah.
comes in, sometimes I just know that Western herbs aren't going to cut it. Like if you
hmm
really need blood tonifying herbs, there's some great Western herbs, but I just know it's got to be a Chinese formula.
hmm
So it's very individual.
There's so many different healing modalities
Hmm.
available, and sometimes it can get super overwhelming. And
Yeah.
I'm just curious. I know it is very individual, but what are the ones that you've noticed have had the most success?
It is individual, and it's interesting because the vibration of the person has to match the vibration of the medicine. So I
hmm
do find that some people who have a strong meditation practice and are really in touch with their intuition, they do well with vibrational medicine, whether that be Reiki or flower essences. Some people who have a lot of, even if they are very much strong meditators, if they're really the kind of body that gets very stuck, and in naturopathic medicine and homeopathic language, we talk about the body being kind of sticky in terms of your toxins and not being able to get out. Those kind of patients need more pushing. So you need almost like more physical medicine. I'm more this way. Like I don't
Yeah.
do very well with just kind of
Airy
airy
or
medicine. Like I
yeah.
really need something stronger to push through the gunk, and then
Yeah.
I can get in. So, but for the average person, and in terms of what's available to the public, I think nutraceuticals, number one. So that's the opposite of pharmaceuticals. So what people would sometimes consider supplements, but really formulations that might combine herbs, botanicals, and supplements or vitamins. So it's a little bit more almost like natural drugs because
Yeah.
it works on a biochemical, physiological level. And then definitely herbs. I mean, because herbs you can take as something gentle as a tea. You can go as strong as a tincture. Some herbs are toxic. They're, because they're so powerful.
Yeah.
And there's so many herbs available,
I know. It's a
and in
lot.
so many different forms. So it's definitely works well for a lot of people. And then if you know what you're doing, I would say, homeopathy. And that is a little bit more challenging because that vibration has to really match. But, very simple things like arnica or nux vomica, things like that. I always think parents and families should have a little bit of a kit at home. So,
But I think it would be so it would be really nice if you kind of explained the difference between the three, even though you
oh,
already did,
sure.
because
Yeah,
I
yeah.
think sometimes it seems like they blend in together.
Right.
It's like
Right.
the difference between herbs
Yeah.
and like I would think that supplements are herbs.
Right.
And
Right.
and
Yeah.
then
Yeah.
homeopathy, like what?
Yeah. So nutraceuticals or supplements. So supplements are more of the vitamins and, things like amino acids.
Mhm.
I give a lot of GABA, for instance, for
Yeah.
people who have anxiety.
Mhm.
Helps really quiet the mind. But that's not really a mineral. It's not an herb.
Yeah.
It's a neurotransmitter that helps work with brain activity.
Okay, yeah.
So that kind of falls into one category. Things like people know, just vitamin B, vitamin D.
Where does it come from? Like where does GABA come from?
Well, different vitamins are synthesized in different ways. So
Okay.
obviously there's food sources. So depends on the company. And this is actually it touches on an important topic because people, unlike Europe, it's not as regulated here in the
Yeah.
States. So I never, for example, will tell a person, okay, I want you to start taking a B complex and just send them out into the world.
Yeah.
I am very specific about, I want you to get this brand and take this dosage. Because they're not all created equal and they're not regulated. So,
Mhm.
going back to what you asked, how something is manufactured, how something is synthesized, is it a food base? Is it a complete synthetic molecule that was created in a lab?
Yeah.
And, part of why this kind of goes off on a tangent, but, sometimes skeptics or the conventional medical model will say, well, there's no, you know, um, double blind evidence based studies on X,
Vitamins.
Y, and
Yeah.
Z, but you can't patent things that are from nature. So no one's going to fund a study to see if this thing works because who's going to make a
Wow.
profit off of it? People are willing to pay for pharmaceutical studies because if it goes their way and it works out, then now they can make billions of dollars,
Oh my gosh, I never
But
knew that.
especially something like homeopathy, first of all, a little tube from Whole Foods is like $8,
Yeah, they're
and
like the little pellets,
yeah,
right?
yeah. And I'm
But
totally
they're
getting
like
off on a.
sugar. I mean, I'm just like so good. I take it and I'm like, I
hmm
have no idea
So
where this is coming from.
homeopathy is a whole other realm,
And is it
and
more on vibration
yeah, it's
or?
totally vibration. So it's a complete mind F if
Mhm.
you think about it, because literally, if people think about high school chemistry, you take a substance so originally back in Europe when it was first designed, how it started was, oh, I have this right-sided headache, but when I take this mineral or this herb, I notice when I'm feeling healthy, this herb actually causes a right-sided headache. So Hahnemann, the father of homeopathy, experimented and took the herb that causes right-sided headache when he had it and realized, oh, it actually helped cure it. So it's this concept of like cures like. But what's the mind F is that you take the substance, you dilute it beyond Avogadro's number. That's the back to science kind of word. So you dilute it so much that there is now literally no physical substance left. But this is where it gets into like quantum physics and where it's totally crazy.
Yeah.
So now there's nothing, right? And it's really just vibration. You dilute it even more, it gets stronger. So the more it's diluted, the stronger it is.
No
Which
way.
makes no sense. It's kind of almost like how you think about like black holes. And so when
Yeah.
you study homeopathy, it really actually is quantum physics. I don't go beyond into that realm, but
Yeah.
this is like completely energetic medicine. But the crazy thing is it's $8 and it works, you
Yeah.
know, but that's also why it doesn't work if it's not the right remedy. But no, there's no side effects. So belladonna, for instance, is an herb or a homeopathic that's used for really hot red symptoms. So for like little kids who have like a really high fever, it's like a common remedy that's given. But if you took it because you had a fever and you're like, oh, I thought I remembered something about belladonna, but it wasn't the right remedy, it wouldn't do anything because the vibration's just doing this. It's like not
Wow.
matching at all. So homeopathy in its truest sense, if you study it, is crazy. And it's why I remember years ago, like 2020 or something, did a study and they looked at a liquid formulation of a homeopathic and they were like, there's nothing in here. This is a total hoax. Yeah, because it's completely vibrational. There's no physical substance.
And they don't explain that
Right.
when they're,
Because who understands that? Because
Yeah.
it's so beyond what we can normally think of in our gross physical world. And it gets even crazier because some of the things that homeopathics are made out of are things that are poisonous. Or like I remember my friend studying in India because there's a whole other branch of homeopathy in India.
Wow.
And, you know, there were remedies that were made out of like gonorrheal discharge.
Oh my gosh. You're kidding me.
No, but it's not like you're actually taking this.
Yeah. It's like completely diluted and not there. But
It's the
but what
energy
would
of that.
help?
So whatever symptoms, I forget what the remedy was. It was some super obscure remedy, but whatever symptoms that matched, you know? So let's say
That's what you had.
Yeah.
So that's what you need.
Then you would take it. Or there's a whole other category of homeopathy that has to do with constitutional remedies where a doctor, a homeopath would sit down with you, talk to you for hours on end, and would come up with one remedy that is your constitutional remedy. And the theory behind it is that if you get your constitutional remedy, you could take that remedy for anything that you're out of balance
I want that.
So people who are purists and only do constitutional remedies, that's how they practice. There's different styles. In Europe, they do a lot of combination formulas, and the people who do constitutional remedies just feel like that's like blasphemous. This is not pure homeopathy.
Yeah.
But I've heard homeopaths say that that type of constitutional remedy worked in the past, but in the modern world, some believe that not only from physical toxins, but also emotional baggage and toxins. There's so many layers covering us that constitutional remedy can't get in.
Yeah.
So it's a different world we live in.
Yeah. It's like combining black pepper with turmeric.
Yeah.
You like need to take it in order for the turmeric to work.
Yeah.
Actually, you touched on emotional stuff, so I wanted to talk a little bit about that because
I'm a Pisces. I could talk about emotions.
Oh my gosh, amazing.
All day long.
Well, in terms of like food and having an emotional reaction with the food, like if something traumatic happened to you while you were eating, we were just actually talking about this. Like I've heard how, like, let's say you're driving and eating or something, which is not the best for digestion.
Yeah.
But people do that. And like you almost get in an accident or something that food that you were eating, maybe you associate like a traumatic experience with, and then you can kind of have a reaction to it and maybe not feel well. Or have you noticed that, or is there any science behind that?
Well, I think that falls into the realm of, you know, even the bigger category of like PTSD or post-traumatic stress disorder. You know, People often think of it in terms of war and the military and trauma, but um, trauma to the body can be anything. And it's really about our perception. So I do find, I mean, I've talked to patients about emotions all the time because it's such an integral part of our physical bodies and our
Yeah.
health. But I don't know in terms of the science, but I believe that, you could have been eating something and something happened, and that energy or that trauma or that memory can get lodged in your body. I do believe in cellular memory and that we
Hmm.
hold energy in our bodies and that can even be passed down. And I have to do the research, and I apologize, but I almost want to say there is new research about how it changes our DNA and that can then be passed on,
Yeah,
you
I
know?
really believe that. Just intergenerational suffering
Yeah,
and
yeah.
like
And that
not
it
working on it gets passed through.
completely, and that
Yeah.
it's not just energy, but that there is now physical manifestation that we can see. And I see that more and more. A lot of times, things that have been held true in naturopathic medicine for centuries that were considered completely kooky or crazy in allopathic medicine,
Hmm.
I'm seeing like science actually catching up. And I always
Yeah.
think about the story when I was in med school. There was some story my teacher told about how when radio waves were first invented and people didn't believe in them because you couldn't see it,
Hmm.
and that we haven't really changed. Like
Yeah.
we just didn't have ways of measuring things. And same now, I think that we lack the ability to have the right measurement, but
Hmm.
we believe in science so much that if it's not measuring it now, it must not be true.
Yeah.
So I believe that, yeah, if you were, I mean, just to get a little bit silly, how many people have had friends who drank too much of something in college and got sick and then they could never drink that thing again?
Yeah.
Everybody has that
That's what
story.
it is.
That's
Yeah.
physical
That
trauma
makes
too.
sense.
So I think it's kind of the same thing, but I think um, letting go of that is
Hmm.
actually what the real journey is
Hmm.
about.
How do you let go though? Like how do you unblock a cellular
Oh, girl,
memory?
you're asking the
Yeah, no,
the $1 million question.
everything, you have to try it all. Do you ever have patients that you've
Mhm.
tried everything with, but nothing seems to help? Maybe because they're resistant or, yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
Um, I don't think I've ever had a patient where nothing shifted.
Hmm.
If they were coming in for something specific, I've definitely had patients where that thing didn't get resolved or that piece didn't move as much as we wanted. And sometimes because of emotional resistance. Although I've had patients come in who don't believe in natural medicine, don't believe in acupuncture, and
How did they find
their
you?
knee pain. A lot of times, husbands, wives,
Yeah.
boyfriends, friends force them. And I
Hmm.
actually have a rule, and I got this from another doctor. No one can come to see me unless they schedule their own appointment.
Yeah.
So that helps a little bit, although sometimes they get forced anyway. But yeah, I've definitely had patients either due to resistance or just our inability to work together through. I really believe in the doctor patient alchemy and that
Hmm.
there's a healing process in there.
Yeah.
And that 10 different doctors can do the exact same thing and you'll have 10 different results. So that alchemy is important. So sometimes the alchemy just isn't right. We may like each other even, but it's just, I'm just not getting it or they're
Yeah.
not getting it. I always joke like it's no different from finding the right hairdresser.
Yeah.
Like you got to find the right one for you,
It's
you
so
know?
true.
So between patient's resistance, between the alchemy not being there, of course, maybe us not being aggressive enough or, for whatever reason, um, there's definitely been patients who haven't gotten the results that they want, but I will say that there's always shift.
Hmm. Yeah.
So, one of the challenges with natural medicine is that we are asking the body to change, and the body is nature, and nothing in nature that is done right moves fast.
Yeah.
If you look at like weather, anytime there's something like traumatic, like storms, it's when nature's moving too quickly because
Hmm.
nature's not designed to do that. But we also now we're trying to implement this medicine in a world that only wants to move fast.
Hmm.
So I think impatience definitely gets in the way sometimes, and we have to realize, oh, we have to let the body actually change if we want to heal. And if that's not for you, then no problem. Like
Yeah.
this isn't, there's no one medicine that works for everybody.
Mm-hmm. And touching on like all the different layers
Mm-hmm.
and the fact that you are a doctor that tries to get to the root cause of the issue, does a lot of times that must make you like the therapist, the emotional support
Yeah,
person, the nutritionist, and I'm just
absolutely.
curious how that is for you. Does it get
Yeah.
draining, and how that is for your patients? Like, do they like it? And is that the way that you go about treating someone?
Yeah, yeah, I do. And that's my style because I innately, the more I practice, feel like at the core, it's really energetic and emotional. And I always tell patients that we're all like an onion. And when you're starting the healing process, that you do have to peel away
Mm-hmm.
layers of onion. You can't just like take a knife and go straight to the middle. It
Yeah.
just doesn't work that way. So it's a dance. You have to work on alleviating symptoms, but always with the understanding that we're getting to the core. And I do think that it's always emotional, heart centered, past trauma, all of that. And so we have to talk about it. So you asked, do patients like it? Sometimes they don't because
Mm-hmm.
they want, I had a new patient yesterday, for instance, and he's coming in for this weird foot nerve pain thing that's happening. And he literally thought I would just stick a few needles in him, give him a couple herbs, and see you, in a couple weeks or whatever.
Yeah.
And we talked about his stress level, his sense of joy. Turns out I think he's pretty depleted and he
Mm-hmm.
had not even thought about that. So I do ask patients to delve deeper than they probably thought they were going to go. Some come like completely ready. So I think others may be a little bit apprehensive because it's work, you
Yeah.
know? So some like it, some don't, but they understand. And that's part of my job as their guide, that this is what this means and this is what healing is. And understanding that it's not just about taking a pill, natural or otherwise.
Mm-hmm.
And it is something that I have to be careful of. I'm definitely an empath, and not in the way that like, oh, I'm such an empath, I'm so sensitive, but really in almost a negative way that if I
Yeah.
don't really work at it, and when I'm kind of lazy about it, it all gets in and I am just
Especially being a
drained.
Pisces, I'm sure.
Yes, I'm an
Yeah.
emotional, just walking ball of emotions.
Yeah, I'm an empath too, so I totally get
Yeah,
it.
yeah. So
It's
it's
hard.
really important for us to do whatever we can to ground ourselves, to protect other people from our energy, even
Mhm.
because we're just sort of these like big open, you know, um, just energy moving in and out. So I
Yeah.
have to really be mindful of that. I do get drained, and so that's something that I have to really watch out for.
What about like touching on mental health? And
Hmm.
something I think about all the time is how me personally, I do Kundalini yoga, I
Uh huh.
meditate, I have all these practices and rituals that I
That's
do,
so
or
great.
like take baths and whatnot. And I
Yeah.
still find that like, and I do what I love
Uh huh.
also for
Uh
work.
huh.
And I find at the same time that I can have so many moments when I just like lose my shit.
Yeah.
And I think a lot about what's going on in the world
Uh-huh.
right now.
Uh-huh.
And just I just feel so bad for people who haven't even thought about like getting more in touch with themselves, and how just talking about meditation can just seem like so stupid to some people, or like what is that, or
Mhm.
overwhelming, or whatever the case. And I think about how is everyone, because most people aren't doing this,
Mhm.
so then most people, I don't know how they deal with their stuff, and like
Mhm.
what you can recommend to someone who hasn't even thought about, I guess, like taking a moment to breathe, or
Yeah.
someone who's,
Or
like there's so
there's
many
people
people
who
in
don't
the
have
world.
access.
Yeah.
Like really that's what it comes down to, you
Yeah.
know?
I think like we're just overrun by so many
Mhm.
things to do. Our to-do list, like someone who has a job that they hate and they work nine
Mhm.
to five and they have a family,
Yeah.
and maybe they have a parent who's sick that they take care of. And then
Mhm.
there's like no time for themselves.
Mhm.
And the last thing is maybe trying something new.
Yeah.
And then something bad happens and they like take it out on maybe the rest of the world. You know, that's like kind of the cycle that we're seeing.
Absolutely. Because the more I do this medicine and the more I look at the world, you know, people are in pain.
Yeah.
Like, and people, everyone from, you know, the homeless guy on the street in my neighborhood to, you know, someone who's living in some beautiful house, like
Everyone feels
there's
it.
these
Yeah.
deep inner wounds that we're all trying to heal. And we were talking about this earlier, but trauma in the body doesn't mean that you were beaten in the closet as a kid. That could have been your childhood, and that's horrible. But you could have, you know, been picked up late from school or been fed American cheese or not breastfed but the body doesn't know that. The body is neutral. It just reads energy.
Yeah.
So it doesn't know the difference between those two. So for the people that you talked about, I do more and more feel that people are in pain. People are seeking to really be seen. And a lot of people are giving too much or taking too many withdrawals and not enough deposits. I think the number one thing is consistency. So even if that means you're that person who has to take care of your sick parent and you're a single mom and you're running yourself ragged, 1 minute. I remember when the Oprah Winfrey Show was still on, Eckhart Tolle was on, and he talked about doing 1 minute of silence only, like especially if you're new to meditation, just 1 minute every day, and each month increasing that by 1 minute. And
That's
you
a
know
good
how he is,
idea.
he's just like a magical creature. He was
Yeah.
like, and at the end of the year, you will be able to do 12 minutes of silent meditation. And I just thought, I
That's
love this
so
man,
nice.
you know,
Yeah.
but anybody can do 1 minute, you know? So I think that it's about self-care, and it doesn't have to mean that you take a spa day every weekend.
Yeah.
You take an hour-long yoga class every day, whatever you can do. And if you can only do 1 minute, but do it consistently with anything, there's something called the Kaizen method. And I think it's Japanese, and it's incorporated as Japanese corporate culture as well. But it is something that has now is totally pervasive. But it's all about the tiniest of changes done consistently to actually change your neurology.
Wow.
So they found a study that if a cardiologist told a heart patient, okay, I need you to exercise more, like no one was exercising. But if they said, okay, I need you to walk for 5 minutes every day, people would do it.
Yeah.
And then they would build on it. So it's the same thing with self-care. We feel like it's this overwhelming thing. I don't have time to go get a massage. I don't have time to go meditate. But little things like what brings you joy? And that's actually a big question that I've been asking myself. I'm actually good at figuring out self-care, but you know, I look at little kids and how joyful they are. And now that I'm adulting and have responsibilities, I
Yeah.
think, what brings me that kind of joy? And trying to explore more of that. And that evolves as we get older and our lives change. But so I think it's really important for people to explore what brings me joy. And it doesn't have to be time consuming or expensive.
Yeah. You just
know?
have to take a second to pay
Yeah.
attention to yourself. And
But yeah, and it's really about putting yourself first for a moment,
yeah.
you know?
Yeah. That's so nice. Do you have people that come to you that have just started and have no idea like what that even means?
Oh, absolutely. In terms of their healing
Yeah.
journey.
Yeah.
And yeah, I have people come who just want to feel better and
Yeah.
they don't know where to start.
Mhm.
So, you know, it's the full spectrum. When I was in med school, we had as an intern, we had a patient who the only water that touched her mouth was when she brushed her teeth. She
Oh
only
my
drank
gosh.
Coke all day. I can't remember if it was Diet Coke or regular Coke. Not that it matters, but brushing her teeth was the only time water even touched her mouth.
Wow.
So for
She
us,
just didn't like the taste?
she didn't
Or
like the taste. And, you know, if you are dehydrated, your brain eventually just gives up. It says,
yeah.
like, I've been asking for water and you're not giving it to me, so I'm going to stop asking. And nature is that way. Our bodies are that way, very adaptable. So for us, getting her to drink 1 glass of water a day was amazing. She's not someone, we're not going to in the second visit be like, okay, now you're gluten-free and soy-free and
Yeah,
dairy-free, drink
no.
8 glasses of water a day. We want you to meditate for 30 minutes. Like that ain't going to happen.
Yeah.
1 glass of water was a victory. And then and that's the Kaizen method, right? Little bits and you build on
Yeah.
it. So I have patients who come who are, they've done all the homework and they're ready to go and they just need that little bit of guidance. And then I have patients like that woman where let's just get in a glass of water,
Yeah.
let's
That's
just do
nice.
1 minute of breathing.
Especially in today's world when
Mhm.
we're so ADD.
Yeah.
Like doing one thing consistently is
Yeah.
rare unless it's like scrolling through your Instagram feed. So that's really nice
Yeah.
to just think about 1 minute or
Yeah.
a
Very
walk.
small,
Yeah.
whatever's doable, but whatever's doable consistently.
hmm
Yeah.
Okay, so what's ice rolling? Because I saw it on your Instagram. Speaking of Instagram.
So I'm not like a dermatologist. Obviously, I treat patients for acne and rosacea and eczema and psoriasis, things that are caused by like deeper
Mhm.
inner imbalances. But I just personally love skincare and beauty. And to be completely honest, switching all my beauty products to green has been the slowest just because there's so much out there and I love it and I've loved it my whole life. My first job was at the mall working
Yeah.
at Origins, actually. So that's just something that I'm interested in. But I've heard from like a lot of older women for many, many years that they would do like rub ice on their face at night.
Wow.
And your face would get all red, but in the morning, like your face would just be so alive. And some people would do it in the morning. And you've heard all sorts of stories of like old movie stars who would do ice baths for their
Yeah.
face. And, there's always been stories about that. And
Do they do it until it melts?
yeah, and I've tried it. And when you just take an ice cube, just the heat of your body, it just starts to melt and it's very drippy and messy. And, but whenever I would do it, I definitely would notice a difference. And in naturopathic medicine, there's hydrotherapy, which is a form of nature cure using hot and cold water for different kinds of therapeutic treatments. So this whole idea of temperature, makes complete sense. Hot opens up your blood vessels, cold constricts them.
So it helps with circulation.
Helps with circulation. Now, in Chinese medicine, just doing cold is not so good because cold stagnates everything. So it's really kind of that blood
Well,
pumping that you want. But anytime we apply the cold to our face, it tightens your pores, it lowers inflammation. So I was doing that ice thing for a while. I would do it sporadically. And then I just came across the actual ice roller. And whenever I would get facials too, at the very end, they have these roller balls that they would keep in the fridge and do. And I thought, oh, that feels so good. And it kind of like gets all the serums and everything like kind of sealed in there. So then I
love
started
that.
doing that and I'm like, oh my God, you just stick it in the freezer.
What is it? Just
So
a
it's like a
regular
handle.
roller? Like
It's
a jade roller?
kind of, but bigger. And then the ball is like a cylinder. It's a metal cylinder and there's a gel. I think some of them have like a gel in there and some of them are just metal, so it retains the cold better. And then you put that part in the freezer and then you just hook it on and you can just roll away.
It looked like an amazing device. And I was like, I need to ask her about
So
that.
I just started doing it in the morning and I love it. I have a tendency to get a little puffy, so it feels good.
I
And it's
totally do
great.
too.
Yeah.
I don't know why. I'm always like,
Um,
and I'm inflamed. I'm inflamed.
It might be our adrenals. I know
Yeah.
I definitely have adrenal work that I'm still doing,
Mhm.
hormonal for sure. That anything that has to do with like a little bit of water retention or nutrition,
Yeah.
anytime we eat foods that we don't like, our body holds on to water to kind of dilute that toxicity. So
Yeah.
it says, I'd rather be puffy and have water than have these toxins like floating around.
Mhm.
So,
So I want to talk to you a little bit about digestion.
okay.
And a couple of us girls were talking about this too.
Mm-hmm.
Just when I first got really into nutrition, and so I was vegetarian, I became vegan and raw,
Uh-huh.
and that didn't work with my constitution at all.
Uh-huh.
But I really did get into food combinings. Kimberly
Uh-huh.
Snyder talks a little bit about that. I don't
Mm-hmm.
know if you know her,
Mm-hmm.
but I became obsessed with it,
Uh-huh.
and I was super rigid, and it just wasn't good for me because
Yeah.
I again, like going back to what brings you joy, like it's good to just mellow out a little bit and like eat, I'm not going to freak out. I ate some fruit when I had
Right.
some nuts in my fruit and
Yeah.
nuts in my salad or
Yeah.
something. But overall, do
Mhm.
you ever do you recommend that food combining? And
I do think, and I hate that it's like the answer for everything, but it is so individual because some people just ferment food in a different way. Some people have
in their
different in
stomach.
their stomachs. People have
Wow.
different transit times. So some people can just tolerate more than other people. I really do think it has to do with, I understand the science behind it, like the way that food breaks down and, it makes sense in terms of timing. So I do think that some of it is very helpful. And some of it, if your body's able to handle it, then, and you're eating whole foods and you're not eating processed foods, I think you got to do what works for you.
Yeah.
I'm not opposed to food combining, and I'm not like everyone must do it because it is so individual. Fruit is tricky because I really do try to, my biggest thing for my own personal hormonal picture, I really do try to stay away from sugar, including too much fruit.
Yeah.
And so that hasn't been too much of an issue for me because I feel like with food combining, particularly the fruit is the piece that you have to be mindful
Yeah.
of.
Because
But
it digests so quickly, right?
yeah, yeah. But I also have issues with, for certain people, depending on your cortisol, your insulin, your blood sugar, fruit on an empty stomach or, fruit after you've only, a little bit of a 30-minute span, could be too much of a spike depending
Yeah.
on the type of fruit,
Wow.
So that's where you kind of have to learn to listen to your body. And that's the most important thing, right? Empowering ourselves to really not relying on a naturopathic doctor. Yes, if you have massive migraines or hypothyroidism or, fibromyalgia, of course, like getting guidance, but on a day-to-day level, like really being able to listen.
Yeah.
So yeah, I think if it works for you, and two things, the rigid thing, I get it because that can start to create more stress in the body. And there's like a Chinese medicine saying about, I'm totally going to butcher it, but something about it's healthier to eat like chocolate cake with joy than it is to eat vegetables just with sadness and
I love that.
but
Yeah.
I also just told a patient this morning, I get this whole thing about giving yourself a pass and we have to have more self-love and self-nourishment and less guilt about things, especially as women, but you can't give yourself a pass
Every
every
day.
time.
Yeah.
People love to
Exactly.
say, "Oh, everything in moderation." Well, not if you're saying that at every meal,
Yeah.
you know.
And moderation is different for everyone.
Mhm.
And actually, we were talking about this yesterday. Like, until you've gone deep and you understand what it's like,
Yeah.
and you've really like committed to something, like talking about consistency, then
Yeah.
I think that's when you really understand.
Totally.
I'm gonna give myself a pass, or
Completely.
yeah.
Yeah.
So, what are some other things that you're super into right now, like ice rolling or whatever?
I mean, on a personal level, I just always love any kind of skincare beauty. So I'm always looking, trying, but I also have really sensitive skin. So I have to be careful because sometimes
Yeah.
trying new things too often, I can break out. But I mean, just my own, I think we only really know ourselves the best,
Yeah.
ultimately. And for me, it's about finding joy and understanding more and more that even a lot of my own physical imbalances that have to do with my hormones or mood or around my cycles, all of this has a physical manifestation, but that it really does come from a deeper place. And I know personally that I have some inner child work that I need to pursue more and delve into more, and really that joy piece, like I said, self-care and nourishment and rest, deep rest, are different from joy. And I look at, sometimes I'll be out at the movies with my friends and I'll see these like teenagers and they're literally doing nothing. They are having the best time. I actually put a
Yeah.
post about this on Instagram.
Aw.
They're doing nothing.
Yeah.
And I think I'm at the movies. Like I have the freedom to stay out till 3 in the morning, like all these kids. But what is it that they are finding so much joy in? And I want to be able to have that in my life as well, even though the picture may
Yeah.
look different,
Yeah. No, I feel like I'm on the same boat. Someone recently was like, your inner child is telling you to ride horses and dance more. And I was like, I hate horses. I actually don't hate horses, but I'm terrified of it for
Oh
some
my gosh.
reason. And they're like,
Uh-huh.
that's your inner child. That's your control issues coming out.
Oh, funny.
That it's,
Probably.
yeah, I don't know. It
But the
probably is.
dance more. I've been told that as
I
well.
love dancing though. Yeah.
Oh, so
I think,
that's good.
yeah, we should
Yeah,
dance together.
we should.
Jumping on a trampoline is fun too.
Yes, good reminder.
Yeah.
Yeah, good reminder. I do love, I'm not very athletic,
Mhm.
so trampoline is perfect because
Trampoline,
it's
yeah.
just like,
The like mini trampoline. Have you seen the Bellicons?
yes.
Those are really fun, and I
That's a
like
good
it 'cause
reminder.
it's not like a metal string. It's I don't know what it is.
Yeah,
The spring. I
yeah,
mean,
yeah.
yeah,
It's less, there's something different about the like the
bounce.
resistance and the
Yeah,
bounce
the
of it. Yeah.
resistance. Yeah, those are really fun. But I
Oh, good
totally
reminder.
agree about just inner child work and
Yeah.
yeah, it's pretty amazing. Like the most simple thing makes them laugh so
I
hard, and it's
know.
I think that's why it's nice to be around children and also again
Hmm.
just like around um old people for wisdom and yeah,
Totally.
taking in all their knowledge.
It's true.
Yeah.
Especially in our world, in American culture, we really discarded our older generation. And,
Mhm.
you know, it's not like that in a lot of other cultures, in a lot of other countries. And
Yeah.
they have so much to give us. And speaking this morning, I had a patient this morning and um, she's working through some anger issues. And she was talking about seeing her older sister and just how much physically she's aged because of her anger. And she's like, I realize like I don't want to be like that. And I said,
That your patient has aged from her anger or her
her
older.
sister, she
Wow.
saw her sister and she
Wow.
thought this could be my future if I don't work through my stuff.
Yeah.
And we were talking about how if we can learn lessons without having to go through the pain of it, like that's really the best, like most
Exactly.
evolved way,
Yeah.
right? And I feel like if we had more community with our elderly and sort of the sage wisdom that they have, like we actually could learn more without having to go through the pain of it ourselves. But
Mhm.
unfortunately, we sort of discard them sometimes.
I know.
Yeah.
Um, Speaking of anger,
Yeah.
what are ways to let go of anger that you've
Um,
found? Like acupuncture, does that help?
Definitely acupuncture because the liver is tied to anger. So, in
I've also
addition,
heard the back. Is that true or
yes, because Dr. Sarno's work. Have you ever read his book?
no?
So his first book, I forget the exact title, has to do, it might just be called like back pain or something very simple like that. And then I'm actually rereading his second book or one of his later books called The Divided Mind.
Oh
And
wow.
it's all about how psychosomatic disorders truly come from this like deep emotional place. And psychosomatic has this negative connotation like, oh, we're just imagining these things and we feel it in our body. But
Yeah.
it's truly this understanding that no, these physical diseases and illnesses and pain come from this deep place. So his whole thing is the crux of it is that a lot of adrenal stuff and a lot of back stuff come from suppressed rage, not even anger, but
Wow.
suppressed rage. And I've been rereading his book because I'm like, do I have suppressed rage? I'm like, I have some serious road rage
Yeah.
sometimes. Like, where is this coming from?
That's
You
amazing. Me
know?
too, for sure. Especially
Yeah.
being in LA,
I
I think it's hard not to
I
have road rage.
know. So I am rereading that book. But yeah, definitely acupuncture because that just helps to move the energy. So it's all pieces of the puzzle, right? So we have to do some of our work. The acupuncture is another tool that helps to get energy moving. And really, whether it's NLP or any kind of neuroplasticity work or hypnosis or therapy or meditation or kundalini, all of
Yeah.
that getting into that cellular energy along with herbs and, working on a physical level. So all working through all of it and putting all the pieces together, you know, can definitely help with the anger and
Yeah.
getting to where is this coming from,
Mhm.
you know?
Do you work or have you ever worked with people who are suicidal or are having a lot of mental health issues?
Some mental health, some personality disorder, bipolar, obviously anxiety and depression. But luckily, I've not had anybody who was to that point of being suicidal.
Yeah.
Um, And
And
that
how do
just
you
hasn't been my
start
patient
with
population.
that? I mean, I think, we talk about this sometimes, that sometimes people really do need
Hmm.
Western medicine
Absolutely.
and like working together. But then also, I find that I think it's just given too easily, and
Hmm.
addressing the other components
Hmm.
so important, like diet and
Right.
meditation, things like that, to work with
Yeah.
the brain. But I'm interested in how you go about treating
Hmm.
um, and helping those patients.
Well, sometimes we incorporate functional medicine. So
Yeah.
that's a category of medicine that is not like
One or
super
the
woo
other.
woo,
Yeah.
and it's not conventional allopathic medicine, but it also includes a lot of testing that measures how your body's literally functioning. So it's this whole integrative medicine area. And, I often tell patients when they come to see me, especially people who don't know much about naturopathic medicine, like, conventional medicine says, okay, you're either in perfect health or, oh, look, here, we found a tumor or we found a broken bone or we found, elevated liver enzymes, like you have a disease. But most of us,
Are in
including
the middle.
myself, and
Yeah.
probably you are in this gray zone where things are not functioning well. And that's why a naturopathic doctor will even look at your blood work differently. Your internist, to no fault of their own, they have no time. This is what their training is. This is how their model has been taught to them. They just run down the list, what's high, what's low. Anything else that's not out of range, you're good to go. Whereas for a naturopathic doctor, cholesterol may be sky high, but you read everything and say, oh, that doesn't matter. Cholesterol doesn't mean anything. Oh, but your triglycerides are high. Oh, your thyroid level says it's normal, but look how close it is to the high end. We got to look at that. So some of the mental health stuff, I probably would do some neurotransmitter testing, just to get some values of what are your serotonin levels? What are your glutamate levels? What are the excitatory, anxious causing neurotransmitters? What are the ones that are, calming? What is out of balance? So sometimes there is science that we need to look at. And in addition to that, really, like I said before, there is no one medicine that fits everybody. So sometimes it has to be adjunctive. And I've, brought people way down on their antidepressants, but maybe they stay on just
Yeah.
the very lowest dose. Or, you know, yeah. So it's really like, okay, we got to tailor it to you. And some people, they can totally heal on naturopathic medicine, but I also recognize sometimes you need it all.
Yeah.
You need both.
So you've seen both.
Yeah, definitely. I
That's
haven't
pretty
seen like
amazing.
schizophrenic patients or
Yeah.
suicidal patients, but definitely mental health is, and I think that it's coming up a lot more
A lot.
due to our current state.
I
You
know.
know,
It's kind of
I
scary.
know.
So I guess that takes me to the question, like, what you touched on it a little, like you felt like you really want to be of service, and
Hmm.
that's why you do what you do. But I'm just curious, what's your message, and what is your hope for your practice? And
Hmm.
yeah,
That's a good question.
I know it's kind of big.
That's a good question, and it's an important question. And I'm like, thank you for kind of even bringing that up to the
Yeah,
surface, because I sometimes get, just I'm in my
day to
rhythm,
day. Yeah,
yeah, and I don't, ironically, may not be thinking of that. And I say ironically because I think more and more, I just am realizing I want people to go deeper. I want to go deeper. I want patients to go deeper with themselves. I want them to value themselves enough to put that time and energy into looking and really uncovering and breaking open. I do think that it's hard. I definitely wouldn't sugarcoat it. It's easier for other people than others. A few questions back, we were talking about like some people don't have access to meditation, and of course, and some of that we have to also recognize, like, there's karma, there's your own journey, there's so many things that we don't see tangibly that affects that person. um, but with that said, if people can break open a little bit more and really go inside to heal themselves, um, yes, let's work on blood sugar. Let's work on your cortisol levels. That's all like super important too. But really going into self-care, self-love, self-worth. I think that is a huge issue for so many people today.
Mm-hmm.
And so much of it is cloaked and hidden because we
Yeah.
have to put out this image to the world. And there's a lack of vulnerability and a lack of really feeling our pain. But I think that when we do that, that's the only way we're going to be like truly healed. And it may take lifetimes if you believe in that kind of thing,
Yeah.
you know? It doesn't mean that it's going to happen tomorrow. Or it also doesn't mean like, hey, take a deep breath and all your problems are going to be solved.
Yeah.
Like that's not what that means either. So I think that's where my practice and my life and my passion are heading for everyone, including myself.
That's so beautiful. I'm so excited. I just like you've already touched me and my life in
Oh,
many ways just from this conversation and
thank
from
you.
reading your stuff online. And I just really
Oh,
appreciate
thank
you coming
you.
here. And I love talking with
Connection,
you. Yeah.
really? Like
Huge.
that's really what it is. Like,
Yeah. And feeling understood.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. Like people just want to be known, to be
Mm-hmm.
seen,
Yeah.
all of us. And I think we're all we're all the same
Mm-hmm.
deep down,
I know.
you
And
know?
I say that all the time. And I think I forget that when I get caught up in
Mhm.
situations, whether it's with my family or whatever.
Yeah,
But I really believe that. And
yeah.
that's my hope with the fullest is just having everyone really realize that we're all
Mhm.
here for, we're all having, like, we have the best intentions. And
Mhm.
sometimes it gets portrayed differently. But I think deep down, we really all want the same things.
Yeah,
And it's hard to set our own judgments and our own projections aside, but
it's
that's
true.
the work
Yeah,
because we project on
exactly.
everyone else what we're feeling.
Exactly.
But
Yeah, it's
yeah,
true.
it's
I
all
know
about love.
it is. It sounds
So
like
woo woo, yeah.
so cheesy and woo and easy, and it's not, but it is. Um, not to belabor the topic, but I was watching, oh my God, I'm like mortified. I can't even believe I'm
What?
admitting this, but I was telling a friend that I was watching an episode of Big Brother, this like, no offense, CBS, but god awful reality
I
show.
have, oh yeah, actually I
And
totally have because Heidi Montag was in it, she said.
oh,
And
really?
yeah, and she's in our magazine.
They have a celebrity version because they have like a
That
UK
makes
version
sense.
and then they have
Is it in the UK or is it here?
it's here.
Oh, okay.
But I think there's different
Mm-hmm.
franchises. So this is a whole other story, but I have a friend living with me and she's a psychic
I thought
intuitive.
you were gonna say she's psycho.
I'm like, let's just announce to the
Yeah.
world, I have a
I remember-
psycho roommate. No, she's a psychic intuitive. And she's all about no judgment. But she one day out of the blue was like, I just really think there's other like mindless shows you can be watching to decompress. Like,
Yeah.
I just don't even think the show is entertaining. I don't know
Mhm.
why you watch it. And I'm like, just let it be. Okay.
Yeah.
I'm a loyal TV watcher. If I start watching a certain show, I will watch it till it is over. I watched Alias till it was over. I watched, whatever.
What's it called? Ken guy or the consistency?
Oh, the Kaizen method. I am very consistent with my bad TV.
Yeah.
I'm just very loyal. But I was talking to a friend who does watch the show like very regular, and I said, this all goes back to the connectedness. I am like, it's a dumb show, but sometimes, they're all like locked in this house. And sometimes like in the private interview rooms, they'll be crying about the dumbest things. And on the surface, you're like, oh my God, this is the lamest show. Why are they crying about this? Because so-and-so like didn't talk to them or took them out of their alliance or whatever. And I was watching it and I thought, my heart just broke because I thought, this is because at our very essence, we want to be connected. And when that is stripped away because you're already locked in this house, when you feel deeply alone, it is the greatest pain. And that's
Yeah.
what that show is illustrating because somebody did something dumb on this, like, whatever.
Yeah.
But at the core, I was like, and like, I kind of got choked up because I thought, that's all of us,
Yeah.
this dumb reality show. But I thought,
No, it's
that's
so true.
all of us. We like to feel alone is the biggest pain. And we just want connection. We just want to be seen and understood. So that is my hope for my practice,
Yeah.
my life, for all of us, for the fullest, that
Yeah.
connectedness.
I love that.
So
Oh, I love that you watch that. It's balance.
I
And
was
that's
like,
such a
oh
great
my God, I'm
takeaway.
mortified.
It's a good takeaway though. Ending on a on a good note. Well, thank you so
Thank
much. It was super
you.
fun.
Thank
I
you.
hope you enjoyed your
Oh
matcha.
my God, it was delicious.
Thanks.
Delicious. Full of antioxidants.